that Kamala Harris would be the Democratic nominee. For a while, she was ahead in the polls, and it seemed okay. There's a younger candidate. She could get the large part of the women vote on account of issues like abortion and women's empowerment. But somehow her campaign in the past few days has simply failed to take off. Why is it that she's failing to connect with the American voter and with particularly the undecided voter who will ultimately determine who wins?
The way you put that sounds more dramatic than it actually is. I mean, Biden was seen, and I think appropriately so, as physically incapable of running the country for another 4 years. He did not want to step down. He would have gotten hit by a landslide if he had stayed in. He was basically forced out by the Democrats, by the leaders, by the voters, by the funders, finally gave up the car keys. That led to a huge run of enthusiasm for Kamala Harris, which has reached the ceiling. And that ceiling appears to be about 49% right now in terms of her overall approvals. Trump's appears to be very close to that. Hillary Clinton's was 47, 48. Biden's was 51, 52. So back in 2020. In other words, that is all very, very close. And there aren't a lot of, when you say, why hasn't Kamala Harris's campaign taken off? That implies that she could be at 60 or 70%. That's not possible. The United States is an incredibly divided country, and the number of votes that are actually up for grabs, undecided voters, is incredibly small. That's who they're fighting over every day. Those are the states they keep going back to and back to again. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, a few others. That's it. That's it. And it's a small number of voting districts in those states even. So we are, this is not a breakout possibility for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump.
You hedged your reply, which you often don't. Who do you think is winning?
Oh, I mean, as I said, I think this is going to be a harder election for Harris to win because 70% of Americans think the country is heading in the wrong direction. So that's really, if you look at, I'm not a U.S. specialist. I'm an international relations specialist. So I look at the U.S. in the context of the rest of the world. There have been an awful lot of elections this year, and they've mostly been unkind to the incumbent. Now, Kamala Harris wasn't the president. She's the vice president. And so she's not as responsible for a lot of these policies. But when she was asked on television, what would you do differently from Biden, which is the most important question to be asked in a change election, she said, no, I can't think of anything I'd do differently. That's the worst possible answer. So I do think that Trump has a small advantage, but I don't feel confident in that is a prediction on the outcome of this election. I feel much more confident that there will be an awful lot of people in the United States that think the election has been stolen, that the new president will be illegitimate. And that's a bigger long-term problem.